I get it. There are so many different interpretations and traditions around angels, especially when you venture outside the canonical Bible into other texts, stories, and modern interpretations. So, it's totally possible you've encountered a different take on Michael's role, maybe from a non-biblical source or an alternate religious tradition. Sometimes people expand on the stories in Revelation or mix in ideas from older mythologies and apocryphal books like the Book of Enoch or writings from later religious scholars. These can sometimes offer more dramatic interpretations, like angels having limits or being barred from returning, even if it's not directly stated in the Bible. If you'd like, we could explore more about Michael's role across these different sources and traditions. It's pretty fascinating how different interpretations can shape the way we view certain figures.
No, but I think the story you're talking about that you say is in the Book of Enoch. There is actually a story in the Bible where the angels leave heaven to come down to earth to be with mortal women.
Yes, you're totally right about that. The story you're referring to is actually in the book of Genesis, specifically in Genesis 6, 1 to 4. This is the passage that talks about the sons of God, which many interpretations believe were angels, coming down to earth and marrying human women. This led to the birth of the Nephilim, often described as giants or mighty men of renown. Here's the passage. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown." Now, the sons of God here are traditionally interpreted as angels, but there are debates. Some see them as fallen angels who defied God's order, while others interpret them as descendants of Seth, Adam's son, though the angel interpretation is the more popular one in many Jewish and Christian traditions. This event is also referenced in the Book of Enoch, which expands the story with more details about the fallen angels, called the Watchers, who descended to earth, took wives, and taught humanity forbidden knowledge. This, in turn, led to corruption and violence. The idea that these angels left heaven to do this is usually seen as a defiance of divine order, and in some traditions, this act led to their punishment. In some stories, these fallen angels are bound and held until the final judgment. So, this is definitely one of the key stories in which angels are seen as leaving heaven and coming to earth, but it's not quite the same as Michael or other archangels leaving heaven for personal reasons. Michael's story in Revelation is more about him fighting for God's will rather than falling from grace. Does that sound like the story you were thinking of?
That instance, yes, but I swear I heard one about Michael falling in love with a mortal woman and then being stuck on Earth.
I see what you mean now. The story you're thinking of doesn't appear in the Bible itself, but rather, it's rooted in other traditions and apocryphal writings that over time have become part of various legends and interpretations. The idea of Michael, or other angels, falling in love with a mortal woman seems to be more of a later mythological development, likely influenced by non-canonical texts and folklore. One possibility is that this could be linked to ancient beliefs or stories, like the ones found in texts such as the Book of Enoch, or even in certain Gnostic traditions. In some of these non-biblical accounts, angels, including sometimes Michael, have a much more human-like nature, interacting with humanity in ways that were never depicted in the Bible. In many of these stories, there's often an angelic fall or romantic involvement with humans, which goes against divine command. It's sometimes linked to the Watchers, the angels who are said to have descended to earth and taken human wives, as I mentioned earlier. In some versions, Michael is depicted as trying to resist the temptation to fall in love with mortals, but may face struggles related to human emotions. Michael's traditional role in biblical canon, however, is more focused on his warrior and protector role, especially in the context of spiritual battles like in Revelation. His falling in love with a mortal woman isn't found in the mainstream scriptures, but in later mystical and esoteric writings, angels like Michael are often portrayed as having emotions, making them more relatable or human-like in a narrative sense. It's possible that over time, these